Good evening, Bulldog fans, or good morning, wherever you are tuning in on this checkup. Steve, 39-33. I think you said it very well as we were leaving the press box to cut this. How many times did Mississippi State lose this game?
Well, probably most. And it felt like that's the way it was going, David. I mean, you know, obviously you've been a Mississippi State guy longer than I have because you've been.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. But the reality of it is it really felt like it was going to be one of those games. And, you know, State gets up 24-6 on a Tulu Griffin kick return. And that's after, you know, they've cashed in some points after a turnover. And it really felt like when Tulu ran it back, okay, finally he gets one done, no flags, no ridiculous nonsense. And partly I thought this might be the kill shot right here. I mean, you know, you got a chance to go in here and put this thing away. In the third quarter, the Auburn defense dictated terms to Mississippi State. And it's so easy to say, well, Mississippi State didn't execute. Well, that's part of it too. But let's give Auburn some credit. They had to make plays. They made plays, and then, of course, you know, forced another fumble, and then you had the interception there. And State, too many times this year, even though they're 6-3, has not played 4 quarters of football. And tonight was a great example of that. Turns out they needed 5 quarters to win it, but win it they did.
I ran into Coach Tony Hughes after the game, and I said the same exact thing. If this team put 4 quarters together of how the defense played for patches of, I'd say, probably 3 good quarters, the 2 good quarters by the offensive team, you play that way a whole game, this could be a darn good Bulldog team, and they know it. They're just as frustrated how it turned out. At the same point, when you win a game in overtime and do what you did when Auburn could have stolen all the energy out of them, the Bulldogs came back. So we don't want to underplay the fact there is no such thing as an ugly win, especially in SEC play. Could it have been prettier? Yes. The Bulldogs will take this victory. They're now bowl eligible, and they'll draw from this.
Well, you certainly hope so. And Mike Leach and some of the players have said it all week. They expected Auburn to come out and play loose and play hard. And for Cadillac Williams, you give him some credit. He showed a lot of emotion. The team responded to him, and he's not going to be the coach. Okay, everybody understands that. It's a good moment for them. But they came in here expecting to win the game. And when they got down 24-6, a lot of teams would have quit.
Right.
It's been it's as wild as the week has been here at State. It's been just as wild, if not wilder, at Auburn. So they had every excuse to mail it in. They didn't, which is a tribute to those young men and the coaching staff over there. But for a while there, when Auburn had all the juice and State simply had no answer, it really felt like this game was going to get away from State. And all of a sudden you start thinking, you're going to have to beat FCS East Tennessee State to get bowl eligible, and that would be an absolutely devastating situation considering what you had coming back.
So to give the Dogs credit for making the plays, let's talk about the offense there. They put a drive together with just over a minute left, get down there and kick the field goal. All right, let me take that back. They kicked 3 field goals. I think Auburn was really borderline a couple of those timeouts they called, but, hey, Massimo Biscardi, he handles it fine. His snapper, his holder handled it fine. They stayed on the field instead of huddling up and made the kicks that made the difference. The last field goal, we're not going to hold that against him because that was just outside the range. All the things special teams did wrong, the drop punts, the misplays there, nearly fumbled away a punt earlier in the game. They still made it plays, the kickoff return. Auburn learned a lesson. Don't kick the ball to Tulu Griffin. And if he's not SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, something's wrong.
Well, he should have been preseason All-SEC, but, you know, a lot of our peers are absolutely lazy and doing their homework, and they go over to Hoover to get a free meal on their expense account and fill that little ballot out and to be silly and vote Vanderbilt #1. Tulu Griffin was robbed of that, and then he will earn. He's made a lot of people look silly. But David, it's a safe bet for Auburn to make Biscardi kick 3 times. Mm-hmm. It really is. Now, it could have been one of those situations where he may have missed one of those in the timeouts, but he didn't. He made all 3 of them, and there are Bulldog fans all across this country that just knew that third kick wasn't going to go through the uprights. It did. That's a tribute to him. But you're right, special teams continues to be too big of an issue for Mississippi State. The very first punt, you had Tulu Griffin returning punts today. Xavier Thomas not available for the ball game today, but you muffed the very first one, and it kind of felt like maybe a harbinger of things to come. And punting was not good. It was one really good punt where Archer Trafford got it inside the 5. State covered it up. Punting was not good. Punting was
30-yard average.
It was terrible. Punting was terrible. Something has to change, and I can't put my finger on it. I mean, the reality of it is you turned that entire unit over last year. You bring in all these new specialists. You play musical chairs with the coaching staff, and you're still having these issues. And so whatever has to happen has to happen. Leach and his staff have to figure that out. You can't continue to have these kinds of special teams miscues and expect to win ball games.
Now, we're not going to do a 15-minute recap of this game, but let's hit some high points. First, let's give Zach Arnett's group credit. Yes, they were beaten on some quarterback keepers. Ashford made some plays with his feet, and that's been something that's happened in a lot of games this year. But still, they held Auburn down just enough, and in overtime, they rose up and made the plays. Getting Jaden Crumity back, and you're going to have a piece on Jaden for Sunday, you can see the difference it made. And now you think, boy, if you'd had him available for Kentucky and LSU. But he's back, and without him, I don't think the Dogs win this game.
Well, and he's not even 100%, but, the one thing that I'll say, David, and I don't want to sound all sour grapes about all this, even in a win, I was a little befuddled by some of our defensive play calling on 3rd and long. You knew
Can I interrupt you a second?
Sure.
Why is the defense still staring at the sideline when Auburn is at the line of scrimmage and their quarterback looking it over? It's like it took forever for the defense to get lined up, and sometimes they were not lined up. Now, a couple times it actually worked. They just took off and got the guy, but it took a long time for the defense to get the plays in and settled.
Well, they're trying to see what look the offense is presenting, and so I kind of understand that. But Robbie Ashford can't throw the football. Now, I'm sure he is a great young man. He's got a family that loves him, and people say, Steve, you're being too hard on him. He cannot throw the football. He made one big throw late that set up the big score there. It was really the only big throw that he made tonight. But on 3rd and long, when you know that he can't throw the football, why are you not having a spy on him? But instead, they ran that quarterback draw over and over and over and over. And I won't say that we were powerless to stop it. It's like we chose not to stop it. We're going to give you that and go make a tackle, and we couldn't do it. And that was the difference in the ballgame, I really thought, for Auburn, was Ashford's feet. Because all of a sudden you had to honor his running, which opened things up for Hunter and Tank Bigsby. And you knew what they were going to do. They were going to be a one-dimensional offense. But that's if State makes that adjustment early on, and I don't know what play was called. It may have been an execution issue. But the fact that we let that guy run over and over and over again on 3rd and long and convert and move the chains, that's something that is a bigger issue than execution. That's got to get fixed.
I thought Tyler Sweet played a really good game, and in fact, he made some smart calls. I ran into him post-game, and I said, on Auburn's field goal they missed in overtime, I said, I noticed you went over and moved somebody just for the kick. He said, no, he said he saw a rotation they needed to make, and sure enough, it helped get some pressure, probably influenced the kick there. Wheat played a good game. Jet Johnson makes some big hits. Nate Watson has some big hits. I thought Sean Preston, the first half, was just all over the field. So you saw what this defense can do. They probably were on the field a little too long in the second half against a running team like that. All right, let's flip it over to the offensive side. Will Rogers was not sharp. I think his recognition was a little off there in the 3rd quarter, but he did what a veteran quarterback does. He came back when the game mattered most and made some plays. He even put State in a position to win at regulation by calling his own number for a good gainer there.
And Will's a winner, and Will's a competitor, and that's what that play was all about. And this crowd really responded too, because you could tell how much Will wanted to win. But yeah, it was a wet field out here. It was a wet ball for both teams, and neither quarterback was sharp. And Will's expected to be sharp. That's kind of part of his skill set. That he's known for his accuracy. Didn't have his best game, but I thought that, the play of the game for him was that 4th and 2 play to Austin Williams, the roommate. And even that was an errant throw, and Austin Williams kind of bails him out there. And Will's very candid. Will's not the guy that, he's not going to go over there and just gloss over and say, we won the game, let's just kind of deal with it. You can tell he wants to get better. But, the reason the defense wore down some in the second half is because you could not get any semblance of offensive rhythm. And that is very reminiscent of what we saw at Kentucky and at LSU. And the difference was tonight, the Bulldog defense made just enough plays to give the offense an opportunity. And we're sitting here sounding all doom and gloom, Dave, but the bottom line is State wins the game. We're 6-3. It's a lot closer than it probably should have been, but you knew you were going to get a very spirited and dedicated Auburn team to go out here and play hard for Cadillac Williams, and State was able to overcome that.
Of course, State forces the overtime because Ra Thomas makes a big touchdown catch across the field. Auburn matches it, but State gets the field goal. Let's go to overtime. Defense makes a stop. A pass interference call puts State 1st and 5. State has run the ball, taking away sacks, taking away a drop punt. a grand total of 11 times in the game. That's why you heard me ask Will Rogers, was that a called play from the sideline, or did you call it? And he had kind of a smirk there when he said it. Like he officially said it was a sideline pass play, and he changed it to a run. However that worked out, giving it to Joe Marks in that situation, you saw what Lasoya did, what Nick Jones, two guys who struggled in the second half with Auburn's defensive line. All of a sudden they opened up, and Marks goes in untouched. Game over.
And these fans went home happy, and there were so many people here tonight and watching around the country on television that just felt like, you know what, this is our season, and there's still a lot of opportunities for State to have a good season to meet expectations. But if you lose this ball game tonight,
you're in Birmingham.
That's completely out of the window. And the only thing you're counting on then is that maybe Florida or somebody finishes beneath you. But yeah, you're probably in Birmingham. And listen, this is not a great team, Mississippi State team. It's a team with great potential. It is a good team at times that struggles with consistency. And my hope is, tonight is a wake up call in many respects. You say with Steve, it's week 9. You got the number 1 team in the country coming next week, and so you lock in and you played up to your potential. You never know what could happen, but the reality of it is you got 2 winnable games beyond that, and there's still a lot at stake for Mississippi State. But this, in many respects, was a must-win. And I've seen some people out there talking about this is a Mike Leach must-win. Mike Leach is not going anywhere this year, and Mike Leach's seat's not going to be hot. I know people get caught up and become prisoners of the moment. But the bottom line is State won the ball game. State faced some real adversity, overcame it, and got a W.
So Mississippi State now bowl eligible, 6-3, 3-3 SEC, and now they're playing for what bowl you're in. As I said, you lose this game, you're probably in Birmingham or maybe down in St. Petersburg. I know bowls in Tampa now, but just play with me on that. Now with a chance to certainly take care of East Tennessee State, and maybe they'll borrow something from Auburn in the process and come out and play as Auburn did, as if you have nothing to lose. Because you play that way and you make it work, you have everything to gain next week against the likely number one team in the country in Georgia. Well, we'll be talking about all during the week. We'll have Mike Leach on Monday in his regular press conference, players on Tuesday, assistant coaches on Wednesday. The game is a sellout, so plan to be here. Yes, I thought it was a good crowd despite the weather tonight. And certainly those who stayed around, I was on the field for most of the fourth quarter. It was electric atmosphere again for all the coming and going. Bring that atmosphere back to Davis Wade Stadium next Saturday, Bulldogs. 6 o'clock against Georgia. Steve, Mike, Paul, Robbie, and myself will all be here for it. So follow us this week. We're going to have a lot to say. And remember, Monday night, Chris Jan's basketball team opens his first season at Mississippi State. For our crew from Gene's Page 24/7, this is David Murray from Scott Field. Bulldogs win 39-33.